Hey guys, so it's me, Nicolette Mashile, and you want to make your first R1,000,000 or whatever number it is that you've got in your head. You know that everybody's got like a certain number that they would like to get to, right? Remember that none of my videos constitute as financial advice. If you are looking for financial advice, please speak to somebody who is registered with the FSCA and certified to give you financial advice. So let's jump straight into it. Most of us are always on the internet. We're Googling, we're YouTubing, we're reading books, trying to figure out what is this magical way or what is the secret to making your first R1,000,000, right? I think the first thing you need to understand is the fact that there probably isn't one way of making R1,000,000. There are various ways in which you can make R1,000,000. And number two, stop being fixated on the big amount. Because a lot of people then get fixated on the amount and they think, wow, it's probably impossible to make R1,000,000, right? And I say this because the other day I had a conversation with a young lady and she was talking about how indebted she feels, how she's drowning in debt. She doesn't know what to do. She's feeling anxious all the time. Every single month, izinto zakhe azihlangani. She's always running out of money. She's constantly living in an overdraft, using temporary loans, personal loans. So there's just a lot that's happening around her. So I said to her, you know what? Actually, let me see if I can help you. Tell me, how much is it that you owe? Guys, I was expecting this young lady to give me like this huge amount of money that she owes. And she said to me she owes 200,000 Rand. And I almost laughed, but at the same time I had to hold myself and remember that not all of us are used to these big numbers. Because, Miguel, when you have bought a house, you will realize that 200,000 Rand to owe is nothing, okay? Some of us are owing huge amounts of money. And yes, granted, the home loan's got a very lower interest rate, so I'll probably be paying less in terms of interest, but I will be paying it for longer, right? So that actually just kind of equates how much money she's probably going to pay on a 200,000 Rand personal loan versus what I'm going to pay on a far more bigger number on a home loan. But I know people that have managed to kill debt of 7 million Rand in 2 years. So if you can kill a debt of 7 million Rand in 2 years, it also then means that you are able to save and invest R1,000,000 Rand in less than 2 years, right? Absolutely. The problem is that most of us don't apply the same level of commitment when we are paying debt versus when we are trying to save or invest our money for future use. Because a lot of us don't seem to have the motivation to actually want to make the certain amount of money. And then we also get fixated by the amount of money. Therefore, we get discouraged because we think it's a huge amount of money. So remember, I said that there isn't one way of making money, but today I'm going to try to give you some practical ways in which you can make money. I'm sure by now you've read the whatever quadrant, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Richest Man in Babylon, The Millionaire Next Door, Stop Acting Rich, and all these books that tell you what you are not supposed to do and what you are supposedly some sort of way in which you can live and you can make a lot of money. And then there's also the people that will tell you that you can't save yourself, you can't save to R1,000,000 Rand. Well, you can't save to R1,000,000 Rand, but you can definitely spend less money so that you can keep to R1,000,000 Rand, and then you could potentially save it in great interest yielding accounts, right? So let me tell you what I think would be the best way for you to get closer to that R1,000,000 Rand, or at least start being able to save and invest towards your R1,000,000 Rand. And the first thing is, again, stop being fixated on the amount of money. Break it down into sizable portions, right? So for instance, if you are going to take R1,000,000 Rand and you divide it by 4, that's 250,000 Rand. Now, if you start thinking about saving 250,000 Rand, already it starts to look a little bit better, right? You start thinking, actually, it's not so bad. I could potentially reach 250,000 Rand. And I'll give you an example. So one of the other first golden rules is the fact that you need to actually use 70% of your income. So let's say your take home is 30,000 Rand. 70% of your take home is 70% of the money that you are using would be you spending 21,000 Rand every single month. Now, I feel like that's reasonable enough, right? So if you can get yourself to spend only 21,000 Rand of your 30,000 Rand take home, you would be able to save 9,000 Rand every single month. If you save that in a year, it's already 108,000 Rand, right? 2 years, it's already 216,000 Rand, right? So you're getting closer to that 250,000 Rand. If you put that into a fixed deposit account that matures over 3-5 years and gives you a rate of, let's say, look at the African Bank one is 10.75, you're already well in your way to making that 250,000 Rand. Now, of course, then this means that it would take you what? 5 times 4 is what? 20 years to be able to make the first million just from the money staying in an interest-bearing account that does beat inflation so that you can maintain the value of the money, right? But there are quicker ways in which you can start saving up to R1 million so that you can reinvest that money into something else that will give you better growth and better appreciation and better passive income with that amount of money. And it's called adding on. And sorry, it's not called adding on. It is adding on additional income streams. And when you talk about these additional income streams, I'm not talking about your typical go and get a second job or whatever. I'm saying you need to learn how to allocate your time to certain ways in which you derive income. So Dhaval Bhatia speaks about the 7R theory of wealth creation. And in those 7R, he speaks about remuneration, rate, rent, return, rights, royalties, and replication. If you take a good mix of all those things and you keep adding one additional one every single year to how you make money, you will start being able to see results in terms of saving up to that R1 million so that you can invest it in great investments. Remember, ultimately, at the end of the day, we don't want to just save. We also want to make sure that the money that we are saving, we are going to end up investing it. So let's take, for instance, year one, you are earning, I'm taking somebody who is earning 30,000 Rand take home every single year. Yes, this is not the majority of South Africans. I'm just using this as an example. If you are earning far less than that, then definitely maybe the R1 million shouldn't be the mark that you are aiming for. Maybe half of that or even a quarter of that, 250,000 Rand should be the mark that you then are trying to get to. So let's take 30,000 Rand and your goal is getting closer to the R1 million. 30,000 Rand, you need to spend 70% of your salary to live on. 70%. So that's 21,000 Rand, which means that you have 9,000 Rand that you need to put away. In actual fact, you go to your bosses and actually ask them, or whoever is paying you, and actually ask them to keep that 9,000 Rand for you if you are lucky enough for them to be able to keep it. If they are not, you need to put a stop order onto your bank account that will take 9,000 Rand away from your account, and you need to start adjusting your life to live 21,000 Rand. Then this is your first year. What you then do is you add on a second R. So remember the R, the first R, when you are working, it's called remuneration, and most of us have already achieved the first R, which is remuneration. Then you need to add on your second R. And I think the first R that you should be looking at as an additional way to make income is looking at the rate. Guys, in this day and age, you can sell anything and people will generally buy. There's actually a thing, I forgot what it's called, where, and I know that Kylie Jenner or one of the Jenner people is doing it. There's a young girl that also did it with slimming tea, where they literally just get slimming tea for the fraction of the price that they sell it from China. They come to South Africa or wherever they are in America, repackage it, and because they are great brands or they know very influential people, they use those people to sell it at 4-5 times what they bought it at, right? So I'm not saying that's what you must do, but I'm saying that selling, everything's got a price. Everything's got a rate. So you just need to make sure that you can sell, right? Remember in Rich Dad Poor Dad, he speaks about that lady who says she wants to be an author that makes absolutely amazing money. And he said to her, you need to learn how to sell, because what you ultimately need to do is to become the best selling author, not just the best author, because what's the point if nobody's buying your book? Right? So you need to add on an R. I will say add an R as long as that R is making you even just 2,000 Rand per month. Right? So now with the additional R's, except or outside, excluding your remuneration, you need to flip over the method and you need to actually keep 70% of it and only spend 30%. So what we're ultimately doing is we're tricking your mind into believing that you are still using the additional amount of money that you are making and you're actually enjoying it, right? So now you start supplementing the original salary with that 30%. So 30% 70% of 2,000 Rand will be 1,400. So that means that the difference, which is 600 Rand, you can now start allocating to your spending. So you can manage the lifestyle inflation, because a lot of us get killed sinyiswa lifestyle inflation. When we start earning more money, we start adjusting our lives. So now you've got an additional amount of money that is going to be coming in. That is going to be 16,800. I've actually done the math, guys. So it'll be 16,800 just from adding on this new thing that you're going to be doing, that you're going to be selling, right? So this is now in your first year. In your second year, you need to add on another R. And the next R that you need to be adding on is rent. In South Africa, people are renting out almost anything, okay? It's no longer about, when we talk about rent, we're no longer just talking about a property. You can even rent out your car, right? You can rent out your car to the delivery services, so Uber Eats, Mr. Delivery. You can use your car in Uber if you are not going to be using it. You can rent out your, you can even rent out heels and wigs, guys. So rent something out, lease it out, put a lease on it, buy sound equipment, lease it out, buy camera equipment, lease it out. You know, I actually was even thinking there are people who want to do YouTube videos, and I would love to lease my phone to them, because my phone takes some good pictures, some great videos, right? So you could even lease your phone out for like an hour a day. But make sure that when you are leasing, you can at least get 5,000 Rand every single month. Again, the method is when you are making 5,000 Rand from the rent, you need to save 70% of that amount of money, and then the other 30% you supplement your spending money. So again, now you've got 3 ways in which you are going to be making some sort of income. In the next year, you add on another R, and the next R is now rights. Rights is creating intellectual property and allowing other people to use it. You can compose music. You can learn how to compose music if you don't know how. Other ways in which you can use your rights is you can start blogging, and then you can give away the work that you're doing, and somebody can pay you for the rights to actually use your work. You can do videos, and somebody can pay you for the right to do videos. You can do voice over work, and the brands can pay you to use your voice. So with rights, you need to again make sure that you are maximizing your rights property, and you can get a certain amount of money. Let's say you make 10,000 Rand just from rights every single month. Again, remember, 30% of it is what you're going to put into your spending plan, and 70% of it is what you're going to put into your savings and investment. So you start to see that every single year as you add on the R's, because some of those R's, especially the R's that are after remuneration and rate, become passive income. So once you've started using your voice and companies pay you to use your voice, sometimes you'll say usage is for 3 years, right? So they pay you for it. So that becomes passive income. So you no longer have to allocate a huge amount of time to doing that, because it will start flying on its own, right? And this is how you start adding on the ways in which you can start deriving income, right? I mean, I always speak, and right after the rights, you can even add on things like the royalty and the replication. I don't believe that you need to have all 7 R's, because it's probably impossible. We only have 24 hours in a day, in as much as people are trying to compare us to Beyonce, say, oh, she also has the same 24 hours. Yeah, but she's got other access that we do not have. So let's just park that argument for 2 seconds. So basically what I'm saying is that if you don't want to dramatically change your life, because the golden rule again is you need to spend less than you make, what you could potentially do is to increase your income streams. But when you increase your income streams, you need to employ the 70-30 strategy so that you can start saving enough money. Now, let me tell you, when people say you cannot save yourself to 1 million Rand, they are not totally off, but they're not totally correct. You could potentially save yourself to 1 million Rand, making sure that you're putting your money in an interest-bearing savings account. But you could do yourself better and not necessarily have to raise 1 million Rand. You could even raise half of it. And then what you do is you take that money and you put it away into a great investment. There are various investments that you can look into. You can look into investment contracts that you get with banks. Those are really great, because basically what you're doing is you're borrowing the bank money, and they use your money to give out loans to other people. And essentially they're going to give you a great return, which is the other R that you're going to get. So once you've once you've raised your money, you then move on to your return, where you put your money into investments and it starts to generate you an additional income, which again is called return. So getting to your million rand really is a project that you need to be focused on and really understand what it is that you are doing. And remember that if you aren't going to be able to save 30% of your salary, it means that you need to then maximize on the other amounts, the other R's that you add. But you've got to add those R's. They are very, very important for you to start making your money. And remember, it's not a 2-minute noodle. So it might take you 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. It depends, obviously, on what the strategy is. I've given you my strategy and how I'm using that strategy currently right now. And just to round off this video, my strategy currently, so I do have a job. So I get my money from the job that I do. I get my money from business. I get my money from using my voice and voiceover work. I get my money from YouTubing. I get my money from brands using my audiences for consumer financial education. I also do some radio work. So there's various ways in which I've got rental properties, and now I'm actually contemplating putting my car into deliveries. So maximize the resources that you already have around you. So today I want you, as you finish watching this video, to sit down, write the different R's, and then look amongst yourself, look in your house, look at the things that you can do, and start seeing how do you allocate ways in which you can start making those R's capital. You can start maximizing those R's to push out some sort of capital. Mwah.